Hey runners, before we get into today's episode, I want to ask you a quick question. Have you ever wondered if your nutrition is actually helping your running or is it actually holding you back? If you want to find out, I've created a brand new free resource just for you. It's called the Runners Fueling Audit. It's a super quick checklist that's going to help you spot the signs of underfueling, low energy availability, or where the gaps in your nutrition might be that are impacting your recovery and actually slowing you down. It only takes a few minutes to go through, and by the end, you're going to know whether or not your fueling is on the right track, or if you really need to start making some changes to the way you approach your eating so you can start to feel stronger on every run, reduce your injury risk, and actually get the results that you're training so hard for. You can grab your free copy right now by clicking on the link in the show notes. Again, this is called the Runners Fueling Audit. It's a free downloadable resource, and it's going to give you so much clarity on how you can start feeling smarter and running stronger. All right, let's dive into today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fuel Run Recover podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Natchak, and I am excited to be bringing you our final episode of season 3. So this is it, our end of year wrap up. We are just getting into the last month of 2025. And it's hard to believe that we are already at the end of 3 full seasons of the Fuel Run Recover podcast. And I love a good end of year wrap up. I don't know if you're like me and you kind of love a good end of year wrap up too. Those of us who are always waiting with bated breath for our Spotify Wrapped to get released. It's always so much fun to reflect and look back over the year. And, it's something that I really enjoy. I do not think I will enjoy my Spotify Wrapped this year as much as I have in previous years because now I have young children at home who have commandeered my Spotify account with all of their favorite songs. So I think that my Spotify top songs for this year will probably be Wheels on the Bus and Baba Black Sheep. But in any case, we press on. So I, love doing this episode for you because I like to reflect on this past year of running for me, lessons learned, how things have gone in my business, with the podcast, in my life. I don't spend a lot of time on the podcast talking about like me and my personal life and that kind of stuff. So this end of year wrap up is, sort of a little bit of a window into all the things that happen here behind the scenes. And I also really love taking a little bit of a break from the podcast over the holidays. Things get really busy over the holidays for everyone. And I always release my new episodes on Tuesdays. And so sometimes this year isn't the case, but other times, the holidays of Christmas and news, that kind of stuff, like will fall on a Tuesday. Well, I'm not going to release an episode on Christmas Day because like no one's going to listen to it, right? Hopefully you're doing more important things than listening to my show on Christmas Day. And so to take a little break is great. It allows me to come up with some new show ideas, get some recordings done over the holidays, have a little bit of a catalog of episodes that are kind of ready to go, ready to slot in when I need something, revamp certain things. Maybe I want to change some of the branding, mix up the colors on the cover art. I don't know if anybody even looks at that stuff, but just kind of come out fresh, come out ready to roll it out brand new and sparkly in the next year with the new season. And over the holidays, what you can expect to hear is a re-release of some of the top episodes that you might have missed. And this is something that I didn't do last year, but I did it the year before. And I think that it's really nice to do a little re-release of some of those top episodes. Some of them will be episodes that were the most popular with listeners, so ones that have the most listens and downloads and that sort of thing. But other ones will be my personal favorites and ones that I think, if you didn't hear them the first time around, then I'll give you another chance to check it out and or maybe listen again and see if you pick up some new interesting tidbits. So that's what you can expect from now until season 4 rolls out in early 2026. And I'm really excited for season 4 for a number of reasons. I've got some great guests already lined up, some episodes already even recorded for season 4, which is really exciting. And honestly, I can't wait for next year to get here now so that you can hear them too. And I'll share some more details about that at the end of this episode. So season 3 of the podcast was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed the angles that I took this year. One of my goals for season 3 was to do a little bit more commentary on some hot topics in the running and nutrition space. And that was something that I think we did do a little bit. One of the ones that comes to mind for me was the episode early in the season about racing with no training. And that was an episode that, I'd seen a little bit of talk of at the time. It was something that there were small corners of the internet kind of chatting about it. Now, though, I'm actually surprised with how much more I have seen discussion online about people who are running with no training. So if you want to hear my thoughts, my ins and outs on what I think about racing with no training and the different contexts around racing with no training that we have to think about and consider, especially if we are considering racing with no training, then I definitely recommend going back to the beginning of season 3 and listening to that episode. One of the other episodes that was also very impactful, and I got a lot of feedback on, a lot of messages, a lot of people chatting about, was the Biggest Loser documentary. What was it called? Fit for TV, I believe was the name of the documentary, but I keep referring to it, and I think a lot of people keep referring to it as the Biggest Loser documentary. That episode was also, a really important one for me to kind of share a little bit of my story, and some of my thoughts and opinions on weight loss TV and weight loss as a game or as an entertainment strategy. And then also talking about in the nutrition space, one of the episodes that came out a little bit later this year with the rise of the coffee shop protein latte. So talking about that as well. And, my surprising thoughts on how it's not really that gimmicky at all. It's pretty straightforward. And I tried one and I really enjoyed it. So I think it's actually a decent option, surprisingly. So those are a couple of episodes that come to mind. And, going into this final episode of season 3, it's hard to believe that we're here. It's hard to believe that it's already been 3 full seasons of this podcast. I almost feel like they seem to be going by quicker than my kids growing up. As some of you may know, but maybe some of you don't, I am a twin mom, and I had twins at the end of 2023. So they just turned 2, this couple days before I'm recording this last episode here for you. And while, a lot of people will say, oh my gosh, it's, crazy. How's it already been 2 years? And, they're growing up so fast. I feel like it's hard to remember life before I had them. Like I don't remember what life was before having kids. So it kind of feels like they've been here forever. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're wonderful, wonderful kids. But these podcast seasons seem to be slipping away from me a little bit more quickly. So as I mentioned, season 4 is absolutely confirmed. Season 4 will be back in early 2026. And I'm really excited to bring you that. But in the meantime, please enjoy this final episode, this final year-end wrap-up, running highs, lows, business highs, lows, personal life highs, lows, everything in between that I'll be sharing. And then we will see you in the new year. All right, so here we're going to kick things off by talking about running. This is, of course, the Fuel, Run, Recover podcast, and so I would be, I think I would be mistaken to start with anything other than the running. And I honestly can say that I had a really great year of running this year. Obviously, not everything was perfect from start to finish. And we're going to talk about challenges and mistakes and bumps in the road and all that wonderful stuff too. But looking back overall, I feel very, very accomplished and very proud of how my running went this year. Because as I mentioned, I had twins at the end of 2023. So November 2023 is when my twins were born. And so it took until springtime of 2024 for me to even start running again. But I had two tiny little babies at home. And as great as they were and are with their napping and their sleep schedules and that sort of thing, I mean, you're still exhausted. Like you're exhausted. And even if you're up a little bit in the night with little kids like that, I didn't really, because I'm self-employed, I did not get a maternity leave from work. So I was back working relatively soon after having the kids. And so I just had a lot on my plate, a lot going on, a lot of things to do. And so my personal fitness, as much as it was important to me, it wasn't something that I had endless hours in the day to fit in and to kind of think about. I mean, still have a household to run, still had a business to run, was trying to not feel so exhausted all the time and all of that. And so, yeah, I definitely fell hard into the comparison trap when I see a lot of other moms who, had babies much younger than mine, but were already back to racing, already back to running like volumes that I could only have dreamt of at that point. And it was just incredible to me how quickly other people seem to get back into running and get back into racing, especially. Um, it took until I was probably closer to 9, 10 months postpartum. So, like the end of summer 2024, before I would say I really got consistent again with running at all. Like I was running a couple times a week and, like I wasn't not, but I was also doing a lot more strength training, still working on like rehabbing some things postpartum, still doing a lot more walking. Getting up in the morning and getting a run in before the kids got up for the day was not happening until after the summertime. So it was, September, I would say, 2024, when I really got back into that running routine. And it felt great. I definitely was very happy back into my regular kind of groove. I felt, you know, that was just, yeah, I felt like I settled into a much better routine into the fall. But of course, like I was slow. I don't know how some people come back from pregnancy and are just like as fast as they ever were. That was not me. It took me a very long time to also feel like I got back to where I was pre-pregnancy with my speed. So it took a lot of consistent running, a lot of very consistent slow running. And then eventually, it started to feel good. And I can honestly say it probably took like consistently until spring of 2025, like into the new year of 2025, before I felt like a runner again. Or like it's before I felt like really good running again and felt ready to train for something again. So, if you're listening closely, yes, I did sign up to run the New York City Marathon before I felt ready to run the New York City Marathon. But I knew that it was months and months and months away at that point. I think we signed up in January to run the marathon, in November. So I knew I had a lot of time and I knew that I would get there. I knew that I would get where I needed to be with my training and with my endurance. I had faith in myself and faith in my self-coaching skills that I would get there. But I still was not feeling like great. So once we got into springtime, a couple girlfriends and I ran the Manitoba Half Marathon, and I felt really good going into that half marathon. Like I felt very ready. I felt, I was doing the training that I used to do. My long runs were feeling good. Like I was finding a space again and a runner that I hadn't had in a while. So this year I did the Manitoba Half Marathon, and then I actually did my first 10-mile race this year in September. And oh my gosh, 10 miles, fabulous distance. I don't know if anybody, tell me, let me know. You can find me on Instagram at Steph the Runner's Dietitian. Let me know if you run 10-mile races frequently and if that is not your absolute favorite distance, because I loved the 10-miler that I did in September. And that initially was not a goal race for me. I was planning on just having that be my easy run for that week. Was I was going to just do a 10-mile easy run and that was going to be it as a part of a deload week, actually. And then as that 10-mile race got a little bit closer, I kind of started to think like, like I wonder what I could maybe do at this 10-miler. I want to just test my fitness and just kind of see like, what am I capable of? Where am I at with my fitness? Like, how am I going about rebuilding things? And, oh yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised with not only my finish time for that 10-miler, but also like just my consistency with my pacing. And that was my goal going in, was like I wanted to find what I thought would be my hard but comfortable, like just that higher level effort. I didn't want to be like redlining the entire thing from the very beginning, because I knew that wasn't going to be sustainable. But I wanted to find kind of like my hardest but pace that I thought would be sustainable over 10 miles, and then C, can I actually hold that for 10 miles? And I figured if I crash and burn at mile 4, mile 5, mile 6, whatever, like if I can't do it and I don't have the fitness, at least then I'll know. And that's my new threshold, or like that's my benchmark, right? But I was very pleasantly surprised that I was able to dig in and, maintain that pace like relatively consistently. Like I was very happy with that. Relatively consistent pacing for that 10 miler. And, it just really showed me what I'm capable of, where my fitness was at, and gave me then that ability to kind of, look at building on that for future race training cycles. And then, of course, I had the New York City full marathon in November, which was an absolutely phenomenal experience. I loved every minute of that entire weekend. It was just great. Of course, there were some mistakes and bumps in the road, but you can hear all about that. I did do an entire episode just about the New York City Marathon and my experience running NYC. It just got released in the middle of November, so there's a couple episodes back. I think it was episode 41 of season 3. But I didn't look before I started recording, so don't quote me on that. But it's just a few episodes before this one, so you can find it and give it a listen and hear my full breakdown about New York City. So this year, I definitely ran more miles than I have in the last couple of years, maybe even my highest mileage year overall. The last time I ran a marathon was 2022. And so that marathon was in June. So I did a lot, probably less running later in the year than I did at the beginning of the year. This year, my marathon was in November. So I did a lot more running all through this year. So I think this probably was my highest mileage year to date. I never quite hit 45 miles in a single week, which I'm a little bit sad about, but I definitely will strive for next time. And that was a challenge for me, getting to 45 miles in a week with the time constraints I have being a working mom. That really stretched me, that really required me to be very dialed in to so many aspects of my life. My sleep, my scheduling, my nutrition, my scrolling time, right? Because you wake up in the morning, and if you're like me, a lot of us, the first thing we do is check our messages, and we get on Instagram, and the scrolling begins, and like there is a time warp in the morning, right? Like there is a legitimate time suck that all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it's been 20 minutes and I haven't even got out of bed yet. But it was like, okay, if I need to get out for this 90-minute run on a Wednesday morning, right? I'm running, 90 minutes before I even start my day. I have to be back at 7 o'clock so my husband can get to work, because he's at home with the kids, and I've got to be out the door. I have to be walking out of my house at 5:30 in the morning to start this run. And I know that there are runners who get out there even earlier than that. And like, oh my gosh, it's such a wild thing. Um, but being more intentional with my schedule, and then my fueling and my recovery practices. And, I'm on days that I'm home with my kids, I'm kind of running around after them, but I got to remember to like make sure that I'm eating and fueling myself, and all of those things. So, this marathon cycle was so wonderful, but it really stretched me and made me have to prioritize differently and make me think about things differently. And I'm so glad I did it. And I know that I'm not done with the marathon, but I also know that it will be a couple of years, I think, before I tackle that again. Getting out for, those 3-hour long runs and making time for that when you've got little tiny kiddos at home is not easy. And I mean, huge props to my husband, who is so supportive, like just unbelievably supportive. When I said I wanted to go run New York City, he was like, absolutely, yes. Encouraged me to go for an extra couple of days and like see the sights and spend time in the city, and stuff like that. It wasn't like, oh, when are you going to be home kind of thing. So, shout out to him. There's no way I'd be able to do this without his support and all of that. But it still is tough. It's still tough, and the mom guilt is absolutely real. Now, what did help me though, what I really liked about this training cycle and running the marathon this year and all of the things that went into it, I allowed me to get back to those basics, right? So thinking about recovery and nutrition and prioritizing sleep and all of that, I was able to focus on simple but effective strategies. And these are the things that I really teach my clients and use with my clients is doing these foundational things well. So I wasn't doing like weird, expensive, crazy stuff. I wasn't taking a bunch of extra supplements. I wasn't like, there was no hacks. There was no secrets. There was no shortcuts. There was no like all of that. It was about lots of easy miles, focusing on building endurance, because that for me, this training cycle was the key, right? I have not run a marathon since 2022. I have not trained for a marathon since 2022. So like I knew that my legs needed some endurance. That was the big thing. It was like a first marathon all over again in a lot of ways. Um, in a way that if I run a marathon every year, you can start to focus on other things. The endurance is there, the aerobic base is there. Now we have to focus on other factors of improving our time. For me, this was about volume, about endurance, about getting my body across the finish line in one piece. So lots of easy miles, really focusing on that. Practicing my fueling. I spent a ton of time practicing different fueling products, different hydration products, different things in training. I posted a ton of review videos about this on my Instagram account at Steph the Runner's Dietitian. So if you want to see my thoughts on, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 different products, then all of those videos are posted and you can check those out. So I was practicing all of this stuff, really trying to be consistent with my stretching and foam rolling and just keeping it simple. And the beauty in that is that changes in weight and body composition were not at the top of my list. So I did not go into this marathon training cycle thinking to myself, oh, I would also like to lose weight or lose body fat as I train for this marathon. But by doing these simple, foundational things and focusing on the stuff that I teach and I believe so deeply in, my weight and body composition changed actually pretty dramatically. And it wasn't a goal for me for a couple of reasons. The first being that bodies change, throughout life. Bodies change as we get older. Bodies change when we have children. Um, there's shifts, right? And weight and body composition is something that we can improve upon. And I do know, right, from myself and from working with clients and from research and from so many sources, like I know that these are things that we can change, but I didn't want the added pressure of trying to lose weight while marathon training, because that can be tricky and that isn't always a guarantee. And because it can be tricky, it's a fine line to find that little bit of an energy deficit for fat loss that doesn't totally derail your training and your workout quality and your recovery. With the constraints on my time and on my capacity for some of these things, it was a line that I just wasn't really trying to find for myself at this point in time, right? There's a time and a place for being like really tuned into things and like really trying to make those changes. I don't think everyone needs to be in that space all of the time. But I didn't want to also set a big weight loss goal while I have all these other things on my plate right now. Training and running this marathon in and of itself was huge, right? That was a huge accomplishment and that was a huge thing to take on in and of itself, and especially traveling for a world major. And like, there's just a lot that goes into it. And so to also then see that without putting that, really high level of effort and thought and all of that into what I was doing, I still did see improvements in body composition and did still see a lot of weight loss along the way. It was a nice bonus and nice reassurance that these strategies are so effective if we just allow, like if we just don't hyper focus on weight, like it's amazing when you stop focusing on something or don't focus on something, how sometimes then you can see the shift when it isn't like we're not actively trying to engage with that goal as the primary goal, right? We focus on proper fueling, we focus on nutrition for recovery, intra-run fueling, we focus on quality workouts and all of that stuff. And the changes in weight and body composition can often come as a result. And so, I am just a really good example. My experience this year is just a really good example of how that can happen. Now, I don't want to share this to set expectations or make anyone feel negatively about themselves and their journey. I wanted to share this though and be really transparent about it because I I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't do anything that I don't recommend my clients do on a daily basis. I kept it simple. I stuck to the foundational stuff. I got back to the basics of good nutrition and quality training, and this was the outcome that I saw. And so again, I don't want to share it because I don't want other people to like think that my story is the be all end all, or like if it worked for me, it'll work for you, like, because that's a tricky place to get into. But I also just thought it was an important message to make sure that that kind of came across, and this seemed like a good episode to talk about it. Yeah, so when you're training for a marathon and you got little kids at home and you do a ton of camping in the summertime on the weekends, it's tough, right? There's a lot of swaps you have to make, and things you have to do differently, thinking about sleep, really taking in consideration things like alcohol intake, what and how you're eating the day before your long runs. Um, but I think for future marathons, I prefer things a little bit earlier in the year. November was pretty late in the year. It meant a lot of long runs from the campground in the heat of the day. I was definitely heat trained. I was for sure, heat acclimated by the end of that because I was doing a lot of midday long runs during my kids' nap in the heat of the day. Yeah, so that sort of is a segue, from the running into personal life and kind of things that have happened this year. Of course, my babies went from babies to full-on toddlers. They went from, little just starting to walk. They just started walking last year around Christmas time. So, watching them go from like babies just learning how to walk into the, full-blown toddlers they are now is pretty amazing. And I don't talk again about, I don't talk about being a mom and being a twin mom, especially very much on the podcast. But, watching the two of them together, watching them grow, watching them interact, learn new things every day, say new words every day. I mean, it's just incredible. Toddlers are just as challenging as they can be sometimes. This is such a fun stage and just such a wonderful age for them to be at, especially with two. I know that some people like absolutely love having newborn babies and love like the newborn snuggles and all that and things. But maybe if I didn't have twins, I would have felt differently. But I had a very hard time. It was hard to have two newborn babies to look after and all of the extra logistics of leaving the house, doing anything, comforting them if they were upset. When you've got two, like it can't even hold two babies a lot of the time, right? Or as soon as you sit down with one and get comfortable, the other one needs something, and you're worried, am I holding one more than the other? And it's a wild time. We'll just say that too. Like it's a wild time. So I think for me personally, toddlerhood is the vibe, and loving life in toddlerhood with my little guys. And I would definitely take this, even with the tantrums and the opinions and the fighting between the two of them, take that over the newborn days. So yeah, we're having a really good time over here, raising our kids and just watching them grow. But there's obviously challenges with it. Some of the big things that have, for me also running a business at the same time is that, your time is no longer your own. You are no longer the master of your schedule and what you can get done in a day. Your to-do list is always longer than the amount of time you have. There's always more stuff to do than the time that you have to do it. And so you have to just make peace with some things not getting done. And again, when you're also training for a marathon, it's like, okay, I've got to get this workout in. I also have a ton of stuff around the house, a ton of work stuff, all of these things to do. Something's got to give, like not everything is going to get done every single day. And you have to make peace with that because you also need to make sure you're getting enough sleep because we could all stay up all night long and get all the things done on the to-do list. The to-do list only still gets longer, but we're not sleeping. So really trying to like prioritize my own rest and making sure that I'm getting the sleep I need means really being focused on how am I spending my time that I do have and what am I making my top priority. Kids go to bed at night. I might only have an hour or an hour and a half until I need to be in bed because I got to get up for a run in the morning. So how am I using that time? Stretching and foam rolling. Sometimes I'd be working, having to make updates to client plans, respond to emails. Maybe I have some Instagram DMs that I have to get back to. And really trying to avoid endless scrolling for an hour after the kids go to bed, because that is another time that we get sucked into the time warp. Is the kids go to bed and you sit there and you open your phone and you okay, a little bit of peace and quiet, and oh my gosh, it's been an hour. I need to go to bed and I have not done my stretching and foam rolling yet. So we do our best, right? So it's just learning to rejuggle things, learning to rebalance things, and I think being able to be okay with a little bit of imperfection along the way, which is probably a good attitude to have and a good place to be. Another thing that was challenging this fall was I lost my grandma. She was my last remaining grandparent. I was incredibly close to her, and I'm going to definitely miss her a lot. I'm so grateful that my kids did get almost 2 full years to spend with their great grandma. I'm sad that they won't have more time with her going forward, but it was great that they did get to meet her and have a little bit of a relationship with her. So in terms of what I'm proud of personally, I'm really proud of still being here. I'm really happy that I'm still here doing the podcast, making it through those first couple years of motherhood and trying to stay consistent with the podcast and running my business and doing my social media and all of that. I went through a time where I did try to hire out my social media and have someone else take it over for me. It didn't work out, unfortunately. It wasn't, it didn't feel like me. It wasn't me. And, I've just found more and more that keeping it authentic and genuine and being able to post and talk about what I want to post when I want to talk about it and things like that on my social media channels has really been the way to go. And I think too, with AI coming into our spaces, into our social media spaces, so much more every day, it seems. Hopefully, more people, more of you are looking for that authenticity and looking for that like real kind of human touch and real human thought and opinion. Because yeah, it's getting weird out there. It's getting weird out there in the AI space, isn't it? And I'm also really proud of just, kind of being able to get through those first couple years of having little kids and kind of, staying true to what I want to do here and what I'm looking to achieve. Because going into having kids, I knew I had a vision of what I wanted my work life balance to be like. And there was a reason why I really went all in on wanting to run my own business and do things my own way and have that flexibility over my schedule and my work and all of that. And so to now be 2 years in and see that coming to fruition is really wonderful, And is it all perfect? No. Is there ups and downs? Of course, right? Like all business and motherhood and all kinds of things. There's been challenges along the way. But yeah, it's I'm really happy to still be here. And, of course, completing another full season on the podcast, I'm so happy to have this podcast space where, we can go deeper into topics. We can spend more time discussing nuance. We can explain things further, slow things down a little bit, learn more about a topic versus social media where things are very instant, very short, very quick topics. You're scrolling and you're seeing a post about this and then a totally different, like you're bouncing around from topic to topic and idea to idea so quickly on social media, that it's hard to go deeper and learn more and retain information and that kind of thing. People are so forgettable online, but having this podcast space, I think, just allows a little bit more deeper conversation, deeper connection, and to flesh out ideas more and to really have this better quality space for communication. And especially as social media landscape changes and continues to change so quickly, like I said, we're seeing so much more AI content, both in posts and captions and searches and stuff like that, that some of that information isn't necessarily reliable or accurate. And who's checking, right? Who's behind posting some of this information, who's behind creating some of these pages, who's behind putting some of that content out there that's AI generated, and who's checking if this is accurate, if this is valid, if this is real. And it's becoming more frustrating to be a user of social media when you have to stop after almost everything you read. Wait, is that even real? Right? Is that even truthful? Is that even accurate? Is that even what really happened or how it really works? Because it's just become harder and harder to like know if what you're seeing is real. There's also, I've talked about this before on a couple of podcast episodes, the monetization of social media platforms where views get money. So for some creators on some platforms, just simply having someone watch your post, see your post, is enough to make money. It used to be that if you wanted to make money on social media, you had to have something to sell, right? You had to have a business, you have to have a product, you have to have like something off the back end that people were coming in purchasing. So there was a requirement for there to be some level of quality with what you were doing and what you were posting, what you were sharing, because you then had to, ask people to trust you enough that they wanted to like work with you or buy your product or something like that. Now that the platforms themselves are monetized, there's nothing behind it. You ready? So you can post the craziest, most rage baity, untrue, wild stuff. And like that's enough. And it's too bad because it's really changed, what we see on social media, how the platforms work. Um, the purpose of social media, I think, has really changed, and it's different than it used to be. So I'm trying to keep up just like everybody else. I will still, be out here playing the social media game. I don't know where this is headed, but again, I'm just so, so grateful that this podcast channel and this option exists to kind of have something, a bit more meaningful and give a bit more depth. Of course, this year I was very busy as a coach and dietitian for runners. I'm incredibly proud of everyone that I worked with this year, all of the clients that I worked with, whether it was for a long time or a short time, people who I had, maybe one strategy session with, or people that have been in my online program now for years, one-on-one clients that I've been working with for years. Um, the people that I coached one-on-one or inside the Fuel Train Recover Club. I mean, we had people ran their very first half marathons, have people run their first full marathons, people who hit PR goals, qualified for Boston, fixed their GI issues, saw improvements in their body composition that they've been working for, people who had more energy to train and felt better running than they have in years, and really enjoyed running and reconnected with a love of running that they haven't experienced in a really, really long time. So it's been so rewarding, all of the different things that my clients have accomplished and achieved this year, whether it was a specific PR and, hitting a time for a goal race, or just enjoying this sport and enjoying this hobby and just again like feeling so much better running in their bodies, running, no longer having gut issues during races, things like that. And even for my runners who might have missed their A goals, people who maybe didn't quite get that PR, missed it by a little bit, I'm still so proud of the work that they put in. Everybody shows up so consistently for themselves. And of course, it's always great to have those learning opportunities when things don't quite go to plan. How can we evolve? How can we do better next time? So at the start of this year, one of the big learning experiences that I had, one of the big things that came up for me as a learning opportunity this year, as now being a mom, was the limits on my time. As I said, when you have kids, your time is no longer your own. You really have to learn how to prioritize. and what you can take on. And this year, I definitely found my limit. So at one point earlier this year, I had 18 one-on-one clients on my roster. Now, I know for some coaches who are like full-time coaches, that might not be a massive number, but that was absolutely huge for me. That was a lot of people that I was working with one-to-one at the time. And so what I found was that definitely was probably more than my maximum, probably more than I have capacity for going forward. I love the work that I do so much. I love, love, love working with runners, taking on new clients. It's very hard for me to say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have space, even if I'm like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to put you in my calendar. I don't have the same flexibility to just add more hours the way that I did pre-kids, right? Like my day has to end when my, mother or mother-in-law has to go home. They can't be here till 7 o'clock at night while I'm on calls for an extra few hours a day. So I just have much more limited work hours that I can fit in. So I have to just, be more on top of how much I can take on, right? So that led me to actually really go back and look at my online program, the Fuel Train Recover Club, and do, kind of think to myself and look at that program and think, okay, how can I make this program as good as working with me one-on-one? So the Fuel Train Recover Club has been around for a couple of years now, and I love that it's such a great option for runners who do want really good quality resources, really reliable, accurate nutrition and training information. We've added customizable training plans. So there's a whole library of training plans in that program. I'm available to answer questions and do one-on-one coaching. We do group coaching calls. It's a wonderful resource and a wonderful program. But I was thinking to myself, if I have limited capacity now for one-on-one clients, how can I make this program even better to the point where I truly feel that it is as good as working with me one-on-one, but of course, an absolute fraction of the monthly cost. There's a sweet spot where runners need to feel supported and seen and like they have access to the resources, coaching, getting help with their problems, getting that customization in their training plans and all of that stuff. They need to have those options available, but it also needs to be something that I have the ability to offer, right? Like it has to also work for me. So what I did a couple of things with the Fuel Train Recover Club that I was so excited about this year, and the feedback and the response from the clients in the program has been phenomenal. Is I actually expanded my capabilities for one-on-one help. So I opened up more longer time slots for my office hours calls, I call them, where basically if you have a question, if you need some help, if you want to meet with me one-on-one, you can book a call anytime you want to, just scheduling that into my calendar. So rather than having, weekly calls with all of my one-on-one clients, that maybe don't necessarily need to meet with me every single week inside the program. When you need some help, when you have a question, when you need support with something, you can just book that in my calendar. Or, of course, send me an email. Always happy to answer emails. I also rolled over into the Fuel Train Recover Club access to the same meal tracking and meal planning tool that I have been using with my one-on-one clients for a really long time. So this is a great app that actually doubles as both a meal tracking, so a nutrition tracking tool. With that, we can do an incredibly in-depth dietary analysis to look exactly at what you're eating every single day, every single week, look at your averages, look at your day-to-day breakdowns. How are you doing with calories? How are you doing with macronutrients? What's your split of carbs, fat, protein? Are you getting enough fiber, enough vitamins and minerals? All of those things. So really, really in-depth dietary analysis that I love and I just think is so helpful. And it also doubles the planning tool. So I've talked before about this, the Fuel Train Recover Club, how we have customized, personalized meal plans. So how it works is we can set targets and parameters for meal planning purposes and say, okay, we want you to be getting this many grams of protein a day. And you're thinking, well, like, what do I eat to get that many grams of protein a day, Steph? Like, how do I get to this many grams of protein? Well, this program will show you suggestions for meals and recipes that are going to get you to your targets. So if you can either use your own recipes and just put them in the program and have them as part of your dietary analysis, Or your other option is to take the suggested meals and use those and eat those. So it's either way, it's both tracking and planning. It does both. And I don't know any other programs that can offer both of those in one place. So I think this is a wonderful, wonderful tool to be able to use. So that in addition to the training plans sync to your watch, just like all the other running apps out there. So if you want to sync it to your Garmin or your Apple or your Coros or I don't know what other watches are out there, but you can sync it to your watch and it'll walk you through the workout step by step as you go. Plus our online library of educational modules and downloadable resources. So the club has undergone a huge glow up this year that I'm really excited to roll that out a couple of months ago. And I know that the clients that are in the club right now that are using some of these additional features and resources really, really have enjoyed them as well. So what this means for you, for you and for me here in my business is that I will have fewer one-on-one spots going forward. So there will not be as many spaces available for one-on-one coaching going forward. But the coaching experience that you get, the tools, the resources, and the support that you get inside the club, I believe are absolutely second to none and as good as working with me one-on-one. And of course, the price is incredible. It's only $89 a month to join the Fuel Train Recover Club. So you're getting your training, strength training, run coaching, nutrition, personalized meal plans and recipes, everything you could need to really level up your running and reconnect with your love of running and reach those big goals under $90 a month. Like it's a really amazing price. This year, I also launched a new free resource called the Runners Fueling Audit. So this Runners Fueling Audit is a 12-question quiz that walks you through your current nutrition habits, assesses signs and symptoms or underfueling or imbalanced fueling. So asks you questions about what you're eating, when you're eating, and then also assesses some different signs and symptoms that you might be having that your fueling is not up to par, gives you a score, and then advice on what to do next. So this is a free tool that just walks you through figuring out if your fueling habits are maybe holding you back from reaching your full running potential. And I highly recommend if you have not already done that assessment, then you definitely should go to the link in the show notes and download your copy of my free Runners Fueling Audit. I also this year, I've been very busy. It's been a busy, busy year. I've been doing lots of things. But I also launched an all new nutrition ebook. So this nutrition ebook is called Fuel Smarter, Run Stronger. It's only $27. You can find it at the link in the show notes as well. And this is basically your guide to the key principles for better running nutrition. So we cover everything from what to eat before you run, what to eat during your run, what to eat after, how to fuel the rest of your day around your running, how to carb load for races, how to pick the right intra-run fuel. And we get into mindset shifts around your relationship with food and exercise and why looking at those is such an important part of your success as a runner. We also have a bonus section in that Fuel Smarter, Run Stronger ebook that has dozens upon dozens of meal ideas and recipes. So there are so many different options. We look at pre-run fuel options. We look at intra-run fueling recipes, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, you name it. There are dozens upon dozens of recipes in this book as well. So this is a fantastic resource. This guide is a great starting point. If you want clearer, smarter fueling strategies to take those first steps towards improving your running and really learn how to fuel like a runner, then I would highly recommend getting your copy of the Fuel Smarter, Run Stronger ebook. And as I mentioned, it's only $27. So definitely, definitely check that out. Yeah, when it comes to business and challenges and frustrations, I honestly will say this has never changed for me. Social media has always been a challenge for me. I have never been someone who's found social media easy. If you think that I make social media look easy, then I'm incredibly grateful for you for thinking that. That's very kind of you, but that is not how I feel whatsoever. And I've never felt that way. Even back in the day, the old like classic Instagram that we all think about that was just like us sharing pictures with our friends and whatever. I've never felt like I'm good at Instagram. but I try so hard. I've done lots of education, lots of trainings, been in lots of programs to like improve and that kind of stuff. But I'm just one of those people. It doesn't come naturally to me. Um, and, I know that the user experience on Instagram has also been challenging, and people are finding that they're not seeing the content from the accounts they follow. It's a lot of ads, it's a lot of suggested posts. And us who are creating the content feel like we're putting in a lot of effort and then struggling to actually reach the people that we're trying to reach. So it's hard to not have that comparison mindset. But I try to keep in mind that a lot of the people that I may be looking up to and maybe aspiring to be in the social media space, maybe like have a massive team producing all of their content, right? I don't know. So trying to learn to not measure myself about, compared to other people's metrics and things that other people can see, and just, like we say, keep your eyes on your own plate, keep your eyes on your own paper, and trying to focus on myself and, really working on that. But otherwise, with my coaching clients and with my programs and with my free fueling audit in the ebook, I'm just so excited about getting into this next year and possibly also finding some new different channels for marketing and sharing more about these different products that I have available, these different ways that people can work with me. So, kind of getting into what I'm excited about for next year, what's coming up for me next year. When it comes to running, like I said, I'm not done with the marathon, but I know it'll be a few years till my kids are just a little bit older before I think I want to tackle another marathon. So I don't know. Hold me to that. Maybe we can revisit this episode if I end up signing up for something in the next 12 to 18 months. You can all come back and say, well, Steph, didn't you say you weren't going to do it? I am saying right here, right now, that I'm not planning on running another marathon for another couple of years. Probably 3 years is my bet. But anyway, what I really want to focus on in 2026 is to start to whittle down my half marathon PR. So I would love to get my half marathon time down, starting with running the Manitoba Marathon this coming June, and just work on that time so that when I do want to run another marathon, I'll be in a better position to have a faster marathon time as well. I'd also really love to race another 10 miler. So if I don't know if there's any other local 10 milers in my area, but like I said, that was a great distance. Love that distance. For now, though, I'm really excited about running less mileage overall. It was a tremendous time commitment to run that much race, getting ready for this marathon. But I do want to work a little bit on running less, and then of course running faster. Because who doesn't, right? We all want to get faster. For most of us at some point in our lives, we really want to focus on speed. And so that's where I'll be looking and what I'll be focusing on for 2026. This coming year, I also do want to put a little bit more emphasis, like I mentioned, on expanding my horizons when it comes to online marketing for the podcast and also, of course, for my business. So maybe looking to expand into Pinterest, doing a little bit more on YouTube, maybe even getting my blog going again on my website, just maybe moving away from Instagram being my primary focus. So if you have a place that you typically like to see running content that you have not seen me on, let me know, because I would love some suggestions from you guys as to like where you think the best place for me to show up a little bit more is. So you can let me know, send me a message over on Instagram at Steph the Runner's Dietitian, and if it's YouTube that I need to be getting into, if it's Pinterest that I need to be getting into, if it's blogging, that's kind of the thing. I don't even know at this point. So you guys can let me know what you think. And then, of course, the podcast will be back in season 4. So, like I said, we are absolutely confirmed. I've already started booking guests and already started recording new episodes. I have one episode in particular that I have recorded already that I am so excited about. I have been trying to get this particular guest on the podcast for years, but we finally have our episode. It is recorded. It is in the bank. It is coming in 2026, and I'm so pumped. I was such a fangirl over this guest. I hope that I did not embarrass myself. But yeah, in the meantime, as I said, you are going to be able to catch the re-releases of my favorite episodes from this past season, your favorite episodes from this past season. So anything that you want to revisit or anything that you might have missed, this is the time to get caught up. check it out and stay tuned for when season 4 is going to be coming in early 2026. So that is it for this week's episode and also this year's episode. This brings me to the end of our 2025 season 3 wrap up, reflections, and what's ahead. I hope that you enjoyed listening to my diversions around everything that I've gone through this year, and some insights, a little window into what goes on behind the scenes with my life as a business owner, as a mom, what I've been working on, what I'm excited about, what I'm proud of, what my challenges were, all of the things. We went on a whole journey together today, but I am really glad that you were along for the ride. And I want to thank you for not just checking out this episode, but also being here for all of my previous episodes. If you've been a listener since day one, then I appreciate you so, so much. If you're someone who came and joined the podcast and started listening right from the very beginning, if you're someone who's newer to the podcast, then of course, welcome. And I'm so glad you're here. And I can't wait for you to tune in to season 4. And of course, if you are looking for some more help with your nutrition and training, then, definitely check out my free Runners Fueling Audit as a first step to diagnose and find out where you might be going wrong with your nutrition. But also, if you know that you're ready for that next level of help, if you're ready to step up, if you're ready to lock in, if you are ready to take on your running goals in 2026 with a vengeance, then definitely check out the different ways that we can work together. My Fuel Smarter, Run Stronger ebook, the Fuel Train Recover Club, or of course, if you want that absolute top tier, next level, nothing gets better than this one-on-one coaching. All right. Thank you so, so much for being here. I've so appreciated the time that we get to spend together. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you in the new year. Bye for now.
The information on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used or relied upon for the diagnosis or treatment of any health condition. This information does not create a client-practitioner relationship and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice.